Hello everyone, I am April Maureen Ramos Lamang and I am going to tackle about types of joints. Do you know what are the types of joints? Let's talk about that. First, there are 6 types of joints: hinge joint, ball and socket joint, saddle joint, plain joint, synovial joint, and the previous joint. First, let's talk about the hinge joint. Do you know what is hinge joint? Hinge joint is a common class of synovial joint that includes the ankle, elbow, and knee joints. Hinge joints are formed between two or more bones where the bones can only move along one axis to flex or to extend. Hinge joint, also known as a ganglymus. Hinge joint is a bone just in which the articular surfaces are molded to each other in such a manner as to permit motion only in one plane. The direction which the distal bone takes in this motion is seldom in the same plane as that the axis of the proximal bone. There is usually a certain amount of deviation from the straight line during flexion. The best example of climoid joints are the interphalangeal joints of the hand and those of the foot and the joint between the humerus and the ulna. The knee joint and ankle joint are less typical as they allow a slight degree of rotation or of side-to-side movement in certain position of the limb. The knee is the largest hinge in the human body. That's the example of the hinge joint. Ball and socket. Ball and socket is a special class of synovial joints that enjoy the highest freedom of motion in the body, thanks to their unique structure. The example of this form of articulation are found in the glenohumeral joint of the shoulder, where the rounded head of the humerus rests in the cup-like socket of the shoulder blade. Also found in the hip, where the rounded head of the femur rests in the cup-like socket of the pelvis. That's the example of the ball and socket joint. Saddle joint. Saddle joint is the opposing surfaces are reciprocally concave convex. The example of the saddle joint in the human body include the carpometacarpal joint of the thumb and between the malleus and incus in the middle ear. Provide the stability to bones while providing more flexibility than a hinge or gliding joint. The bones sitting on the saddle can move in an oral shape relative to the other bone. Those are the examples of saddle joint. Plain joint. Plain joint is freely moving joint in which the articulations allow only gliding motions. A plain joint is a synovial joint which under psychological conditions allow only gliding movements. Plane joints permit sliding movements in the plane particular surfaces. The opposed surfaces of the bones are flat or almost flat with movement limited by their tight joint capsules. Plain joints are humorous and are nearly always small, such as the acromioclavicular joint between the acromion of the scapula and the clavicle. Typically, they are found in the wrist, ankle, and between the second and seventh sternocostals, vertebral, and transverse. Those are the example of plain joints. Synovial joint. Synovial joint is also known as diarthrosis. Joints bones with a fibrous joint capsule that is continuous with the periosteum of the joint bones constitutes the outer boundary of a synovial cavity and surrounds the bone's articulating surface. They are the most common and most movable type of joint in the body of mammal. As most of other joints, synovial joint achieve movements of the joint contract of the articulating bones. The synovial cavity or joint is filled with synovial fluid. The joint capsule is made up of an outer layer, the articular capsule, which keeps the bones together structurally, an inner layer, the synovial membrane, which seals in the synovial fluid. Those are the examples of synovial joint. The last one is the fibrous joint. Fibrous joints are joined by dense irregular connective tissue that is rich in collagen. Fibrous joints are connections between bones that are held together by fibrous connective tissue that includes many collagen. Most of fibrous joints are also called fixed or immovable because they do not move. These joints have no joint cavity and are connected via fibrous connective tissue. The examples of this are found in skull. That's the fibrous joint. Next one. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you have a idea what are the joints, and please share to me. And that's all. Thank you.